Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Service Riders Anonymous. I am Amy, as always, with my beautiful, lovely co-host, Miss Brooke.
Hello again.
Today, we're going to start with the parts department.
And not just specific parts department. This is kind of across the board. Like a dealership parts department, used car dealership. I mean, they're separate.
Yeah.
Parts department. And then you have like AutoZone, O'Reilly's, those kinds of parts departments. So, you get to pick which category you want to start with.
So, I want to start with the frustration when you're a dealership employee trying to deal with the parts department.
Yes.
And, okay, everybody's doing the best they can. I'm not trying to, like, dump on the parts department and say that they're
Absolutely
garbage.
not.
Like, they have their own struggles. But when you're forced into this dealership setting, especially, like, coming from a small shop like I did, where I was the parts department, like, it's a big culture shock. And in a dealership setting, the departments are so dependent on each other.
Yeah. Big time.
One bad person in the parts department can cost a dealership and all of its employees thousands of dollars.
I mean, so much money.
So fast.
And
so fast.
rapidly. And a lot of it comes from having somebody in the parts department that just does not care. Doesn't care, loves their cell phone, loves just not being there, comes in late, leaves early, all of those kinds of things. People that just don't want to work. And don't get me wrong, none of us want to work. We've talked about that, I think, before on this podcast. I specifically, I don't want to work, y'all. I want to be a hobbit living in a cabin on a mountain, okay? Like, I don't want to be in public, especially working. I mean, but that's just, welcome to life. Welcome to being an adult,
Yep, we all got bills to pay, and you are not helping me pay mine when you order the wrong parts, or you just flat out forget to order parts. And especially if it's something like a job a technician's in the middle of, and you source the wrong part and say, oh yeah, it's in stock, no big deal. So the technician's got it torn apart on the lift, and then you find out, oh, sorry, that was the wrong part. And the correct one is 3 to 5 days out.
Because the parts department doesn't have to talk to the customer. The techs don't have to talk to the customer.
Yeah, like in a bigger dealership, there are front parts counter people and there are back parts counter people. And the front parts counter people are customer facing, but the back parts people are not. The only people they have to deal with on a daily basis are the technicians and the advisors.
Yep, they do.
But parts as a whole is becoming more and more and more difficult to deal with. And this is where I thank God for our, it seems like every dealership I've worked in, you have one parts person who is absolutely phenomenal, and you have one parts person who either just doesn't care or just can't, like, get a grip on it.
Yeah, or just doesn't want to. And I mean, no matter how much that amazing human being of a person, I'm not talking about anything specific, but she knows who she is. Amazing human being that does amazing work, really tries, cares about what she's doing, understands the value and importance of what she does for everybody that relies on her.
Yeah.
And then she's got this peanut butter snack over here that refuses to just take the initiative to learn any extra tasks to help her, or run parts to the technician so they don't have to go and talk to them to figure out, okay, so you need this park gate sensor, or you need this, just the harness for it, or you need just the cover for it. Like, asking the questions that are needed to be asked, so you get them the right parts. I mean, techs aren't fun sometimes, guys. I get it, but you have to talk to them. It's part of your job. I will say, however, with even front counter people, I have had almost a harder time as a customer coming to them.
Yeah, in general, at least how I experienced it at Toyota, I guess I can't fairly say in general because I've only worked in one new car dealership. But at Toyota, it seemed like we put our best people on the back parts counter because that's where the dealership is making more money. We're in a more combined setting, we're making way more money on repairs than we are just selling parts over the front counter.
Absolutely.
So they put their best people on the back parts counter.
I've met 2 front counter parts department people that are just delightful. Delightful human beings. One at a new car dealership. The other one, actually, no, both of them were at new car dealerships. One was at a Ford, one was at a GM. Both were amazing. Now, coming to the Ford dealership where I get my parts, right? I walk up to the counter and they know my truck's name because I name it things. And they know what exactly it is. I don't really have to say much. They pull it up, they get me what I need, and they're happy to be there to help me. And know that if I say something a little weird, I'm not a mechanic. So, excuse me. I'm also not a parts department. So, like, I'm not saying their job's easy.
Yeah.
I would never.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's going back. No, it's getting harder and harder and harder to be a parts person because the parts across the industry are just going down in quality. Like it started at COVID, as far as I can tell. We've discussed that in the past, but it is just getting worse and worse and worse by the day. The Jeep that you had with the body shop before you left,
Oh, no. Air ride suspension?
yes, that air compressor had to be warranted a second time from Chrysler. It was a brand new air suspension compressor from Chrysler.
And
We got 2 bad ones in a row from the dealership.
And what's so hard about that is not only is that so stressful on the advisor, the technician, but also the people that gave us that job are a body shop. They were a body shop. They subletted that job to us to do the repair side of it, which was the air ride suspension. The compressor burned up, and I think it had popped a hole in a couple of the struts or something. There was something else going on in the rear that I forget. Anyways, at that time, they had told me they really needed it rushed because the insurance company paying for that job had the customer of that vehicle in a loaner, in a rental car, and they were paying for it. And they have to pay for it as long as they do until that car comes out of the shop to go back with the customer.
Yeah.
And so it's costing everybody so much money for that. That's so...
Yeah, and ultimately we ended up losing that job over it.
Seriously.
Yep. They took it to Chrysler to have them finish the repairs.
And it wasn't even our fault.
It was not entirely our fault. I mean, the initial pickup confusion, that was our fault. That was our technician's fault.
The technician for that. And I think he seen it. I was open about my frustration with that.
But, and you can't, I mean, it used to be back in the day, if you bought a Napa or a CarQuest part, it was just as good as OEM. Sometimes usually cheaper back in the day. It was usually cheaper. Now it's kind of 50-50. Sometimes the OEM parts are the cheaper ones. And O'Reilly's and AutoZone were just kind of bottom of the barrel, cheap as you can get you by. And now it's completely flat across the industry. The OEM is the same quality as the O'Reilly stuff anymore. And it's just heartbreaking to those of us who love these vehicles and love this industry.
Yeah. And I mean, to have a good time with our job, because I mean, that's why I started this career, is I had so much fun learning, experiencing everything that had to do with the dealership. It was truly a lot of fun. I had to step away. I mean, I've been doing that for 4 years, and it was time for me to take a step back for a moment because the industry is getting so horrendous. People, as far as customers and employees, I mean, your technicians, so many things, y'all, so many things. And most people that work in a shop are there because they want to help people, and nobody is there to get rich. Yeah. None of us are going to get rich by working there as normal employees. I'm not talking about management or supervisors, right? They usually make.
Well, that's again I'm going to solely put that opinion on the fact that you've never worked in a decent service department.
Seriously? They're not all like that?
No. At Toyota, those advisors can make some serious money, and those technicians, if you're a good technician in a good shop that's well run and has at least one good parts person, those technicians can make a fortune.
Well, okay. Hold on, let me back up a little bit. Now, when I worked at my bigger dealership, I made good money. I was happy about it. Like, I made like 10K a month. That was a lot for me. I mean, I was able to buy whatever I wanted. We were always caught up on our bills. It was amazing. I felt rich at that time.
Yeah.
Getting cut down to a smaller dealership now was a whole different story. So I'm not saying like you can't make a good living, but I'm also not saying that you can make, $30,000 in 1 month.
Yeah.
Like you can as a car salesman or a manager or something like that. That's more of what I meant. Like there ain't now like working for 10 years and saving all your money to be retired quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean those technicians, they definitely pay their dues to get to that point.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know if all used car dealerships are like that. I'd really love to get a technician on here, but they keep ghosting us.
It's like they don't want to deal with this on a weekend after dealing with us all week.
I'd really love to get a technician's perspective on it as far as like, what is your ultimate goal? Because nobody wants to stay in a used car dealership.
No.
And very few people really enjoy working in a new car dealership. So what is the goal ultimately? Are you just trying to make enough money that you can move on to a different part of the industry with that experience as your ultimate goal to become an advisor or a manager?
Like,
Or
what is the goal?
Are you trying to make it to a small facility, mom and pop? You know the owner. He says hello to you by name. He doesn't scan your number. Like,
yeah, like what
are we going for?
Yeah. And I mean, at least from personal, like, I think some of the techs that I've known, the goals that they have told me for their career, for what they're wanting, usually is to work up to like a master mechanic where they make this crazy salary and they're just taken care of. They make stupid amounts of money.
Yeah.
And I mean, they can make stupid amounts of money. Don't get me wrong. Like, especially if they work on heavy equipment, bigger equipment.
Yeah, the diesel techs for sure are going to be higher up there.
Oh yeah.
Industrial, like
Electrical techs.
once you get into like big rigs and like industrial equipment, like those guys are making some bank.
And I think most of them, from the ones I've talked to, are trying to get to something like that. Yeah. Something where they are able to know what they have to do to fix all of this stuff, and they start small and work their way up. Now, some of them are not that way. Some of them just get to the shop that they want, and they're happy there.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I mean, I didn't really have to do too much to do my job. I won't lie, like comparative.
There's not a lot of education for service writers, and I think that's intentional.
Yeah.
Because they don't want you advising, or they don't want you diagnosing things.
Yeah.
And giving the customer an expectation and then finding out, oh, sorry, you were wrong.
Well, again, we're the communication between technicians and customers. So
we're
the
just
way a
supposed to be
technician's going to explain something, most customers are not going to understand what he's saying or she's saying. That's where the advisor comes in and kind of like dumbs it down.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah, just changes the language.
Yeah.
So it's not...
That's a better way to say it.
So we just changed the language from like this technical lingo to something that your average person that isn't familiar with these parts can understand.
Like, I worked at a shop, we couldn't even use the term tech or diag. We had to use diagnostic technician. We weren't allowed to do abbreviations like that because they didn't think that customers would know what a tech was or what diag means. So, I mean, interesting things like that. But kind of going back to parts, I think that there are people in the parts department that are amazing people, work really, really hard, and care about every aspect of their job. But the ones that do not ruin it for everybody. And it's not just that other person that has to be this all-star and do everything because the other person won't help them. Your technicians, again, most of us are flat rate. The technicians are flat rate, and your advisors, most of the time, have sometimes a salary with commission, but sometimes they're straight commission.
Yeah.
My first job, Yes, first job, I was straight commission, 100% commission. I did not have a salary. Second job, I had a salary with commission.
Yeah.
I kind of miss my just salary or my just commission.
Yeah. And I think that honestly, as far as that advisor role, from what I have witnessed, it seems like you do better without the base. Because
Yeah.
if you have that base salary and a commission, you make a much smaller percentage. Typically, and it's not just our dealership. I've seen other places that have that base have a 2% commission.
And it's sad.
Whereas, like, if you're just straight commission, it's usually 5 or 6%.
Yeah.
So the potential to make more is significantly higher,
Mhm.
which also is a risk because your salary as an advisor is dependent on what your technicians can turn out and if they're doing comebacks a lot.
And
If
if they're
you're-
getting the correct parts for that job.
Yes. Yes.
100%.
If they don't have a car dead on their rack, and if you're lucky enough to be at a new car dealership where they have to per technician, like those guys, it sucks for them because they can't turn out as much as they would if both of their bays were live.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not completely at a standstill if they've got something stuck on their rack because of a part.
Yeah.
At a used car dealership, or at least at our used car dealership, where they only have one rack per technician, those guys get screwed. And that, by default, the advisor does too.
Yeah. They either have to put it back together for free.
So take it apart again later. Yeah.
Or they partially put it back together to push it out, or they have to leave it there.
Yep.
And I've known some technicians that it is absolutely not worth it for them to put it back together.
Yep.
It is just worth it to leave it there, and they will work on vehicles underneath that vehicle.
Yes.
They'll work on them outside. They'll figure something out. But that, again, comes with the technician. It comes with the human being that is doing it.
Yes.
Because there's so many different kinds of people. I mean, just in personality and work ethic and drive to succeed
Mm-hmm.
and do your job.
Yes.
With the parts department. Another thing that I've noticed in more recent times is the amount of bad parts.
Yes. Yes.
Parts
It's
warranties.
getting so bad. It's getting so bad.
It used to not be this way. I mean,
And-
don't get me wrong. You had bad parts.
Mhm.
You had broken stuff from shipping. You had it. But I mean, not every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day there's something wrong.
And I don't know. I actually, again, I've been trying to get somebody from my old Toyota dealership to come on with us as well. I'd be curious if they're experiencing it too, because
Mhm.
I feel like, and I suppose our parts manager could tell us this one way or another, but I feel like we're trying to rely more heavily on aftermarket parts because Napa, CarQuest, O'Reilly's will pay you a labor claim.
Mhm.
It may not equate even to the cost of your labor, but at least you recoup something. Whereas if you purchase a part here in town, Ford, Toyota, and Chrysler are the only dealerships that will pay out labor claims, and they are a royal pain for her to actually get them to pay out. It's maybe be 25 to 50% of the claims that she submits actually get paid to us. Whereas Napa, O'Reilly's, CarQuest, AutoZone, like those guys generally will pay it out.
Yeah.
Unless the advisor blatantly screws something up when they write up the second RO for the claim, they almost always get paid.
Mhm.
So at least we recoup a little bit of that loss. Whereas if we purchase something from GMC, Nissan, Honda, none of those places will pay us back
No.
if we have to replace their parts a second time because they're bad from the factory.
Which is just kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
Especially with like GM being as big as they are.
And they'll cover the part cost, don't get me wrong there. But it, again, it just takes money out of the shop's pocket to put bad parts in. So why would you continue buying bad parts from an OEM dealership who's not going to give you anything to recoup your loss on the labor to have to go back in and do it again? Because you can't charge the customer. You cannot charge the customer for the parts being bad.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's
mean,
not
that's not
their
the-
fault.
Exactly. It's not like they stopped us in the middle of the job and said, I need that car for getting eggs. You know? And so we had to put it back together just to rip it apart to fix the car. I mean, that I would charge a customer double
Yes.
for. You're going to make me put it together right now for a case of eggs? Get on a golf cart.
Cruising in my golf cart.
Or a moped. You could do that on a moped.
My moped. What did I see the other day? I saw somebody put 38s on a moped. Like, what are you doing? Are you people trying to die?
I bet he is trying to make some money. You know how expensive those are?
Oh my god.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
he's driving around on a moped,
Yeah.
so he's saving money on
440s.
gas. And he's just delivering eggs.
There's 440s sitting in the garage right now, so.
4?
Well, they're on the truck, but yeah.
Dear Jesus. Anyways, I want to hear about this toolbox situation. I can't wait any
My
longer.
goodness. Okay, so my husband was in the same body shop for 10 years before we moved out of our little mountain town.
Mhm.
They brought in, I don't know if his title was technically like a detailer or just like shop hand. But it was just kind of his job to do like you said, the big work.
Yeah.
So he cleaned up, swept the floors, took out trash, that kind of stuff. I do believe later on he did actually start detailing stuff. But it was super frustrating for my husband and the other technician that worked there because he kept talking about how he wanted to learn, but he didn't actually want to help. So when he didn't have anything to clean, he'd just sit down with a book and start reading, like instead of hanging out with the technicians trying to learn their job. But anyway, so one day I don't know if the manager got on him or something. For some reason, he just got this wild hair that he needed to do a deeper clean on the whole shop. One of the things he decided to clean was my husband's toolbox.
Okay.
And my husband is absolutely meticulous with his tools.
I don't know.
You know, plenty of technicians are. I've known, especially in my new car dealership, most of the technicians were just as particular about the cleanliness of their tools.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys aren't. Plenty of guys, like everybody in that shop made fun of him because he would literally, every time he finished a job, pull out glass cleaner, wipe down every single tool he used, organize it back into the box.
Yep.
And this detailer decides to clean up my husband's tools and takes his grease gun that he always kept on a shelf on the bottom of the box, like underneath. It was kind of like, so he had his upright box and then he had like a cart.
Okay.
So it was on the bottom shelf of the cart.
Okay. So if it leaked out.
It wasn't a big deal.
Uh-huh.
So after he wipes everything down, wipes all the dust off of it because it's a body shop.
Mm-hmm.
He hangs up my husband's welding helmet, welding helmets, safety, what's that? Respirator.
Mm-hmm.
Welding helmets, respirator, and the grease gun on top of his upright box. And if you know anything about grease guns, like she just said, they leak. That's why you lay them flat to store them. You don't hang grease guns because they will drip out.
Mm-hmm. Excuse my French. It's called gravity.
And it drifts down onto his tools, and I swear, he called me and he told me what happened, and my instant response was, "Do you need an alibi?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's like, "I might." That kid was never so scared of my husband in his life.
I got a fun story. So I bought my boyfriend a Snap-on cabinet to match his toolbox. It was a $4,000 cabinet.
Mhm.
It was a custom one because it wasn't the normal paint codes or schemes that they had. It was a custom one that he had picked up by himself. So anyways, super excited. It took me 8 months to get this cabinet in, okay? So this was an 8 months in the making plan with the Snap-on people, with his shop, with all of his friends, the owner of that shop. I mean, everybody was involved in this, right? They deliver it in a box. I wrap a bow around it with a cute little card. It was right around our anniversary when it showed up. It was perfect. I mean, beautiful. Still pat myself on the back for it. Anyways, the first week that he had it at the shop, we had got it connected that weekend because it screws together
Right.
and all of that stuff. So we did all of that weekend. He was so excited about it. Well, his boss had 2 shop hands. Both of them were idiots. 100%. I'm sorry, but if you're dumber than a box of rocks, I'm gonna call you dumber than a box of rocks. And they were stupid, stupid. I hated talking to them. So, anyways, one day I get a call from one of my boyfriend's coworkers, and he says, "You need to come to the shop or something. I think your boyfriend's going to kill Jimmy. He's gonna kill Jimmy." And I said, "What's going on?" He said that Jimmy had dropped a sheet metal on that cabinet the first week it was here and put a scratch in it that far on the side of it and dented it.
In this custom paint.
In this custom paint that took me 8 months to get in for him. He had been wanting it so bad. And I finally got it for him. So, I find out that what my boyfriend did, when he found out that that kid did it, was he picked him up by the throat, up against a wall, and said that if he doesn't pay him back to fix it, he will find him and he will hurt him. I had to go to work. I had to go to the shop and take him out. We had to go outside and eat. Take a chill pill. He left early that day. He had a hard time going back into work. Now, that kid still has yet to pay us to fix that box.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that idiot, as I said in the beginning, moved jobs, right? And then friend requested us on everything to tell us where he's working now. So I know where he's working now. And if he doesn't think that I won't go show up to his job in front of his big bosses and say, "So you're going to pay us for the damaged toolbox that you did, or just keep skipping jobs?" Oh my God. That's the second stupid kid that's done that. The first one did it to me, or the second one did it to me when I sold my old grill for my truck to that kid that was in the shop.
Oh, yeah.
He still owes me $150 and has yet to pay me.
Did he ever even respond to
No,
you?
he didn't. But if he thinks I didn't Facebook stalk him and figure out who his parents are,
I thought
where
you knew
he
his mom.
lives, I will message your family. You don't just skip out on paying people.
Well, and
Even if it's $150 or it's however much it's going to cost to fix that box.
yeah. And I mean, if you want to talk about people's tools in particular, this is how he makes his living you're messing with.
A lot of these guys order off of Snap-on, Mako, all of these places, mainly for their warranties. I know some of them are just for the name. Some of them are for the warranties that come with them. And
Right.
the kind of tools that they sell. Most of them are rebuildable. I know a lot of the impacts they can get off of Snap-on are rebuildable.
Snap-on Cornwall, yeah.
Yeah. You can get so many things from them and be able to get them warranted pretty much any time. A lot of them come with lifetime warranties, which is one reason why my boyfriend really likes to order off of Snap-on. And honestly, I don't care. It's his money. And it's again invested in his career. Now, my boyfriend works on heavy equipment. He works on dump trucks, excavators, but he was a diesel mechanic before.
Yeah.
Which is where this idiot destroyed his cabinet. Yeah. That was $4,000.
I miss being in the industrial and the big stuff, mostly because I miss my 3/4 inch drive tools.
Huge.
We in college had a tool room
Yeah.
and had a bunch of 3/4 inch drive stuff. And one day I was walking out of the tool room, and the 3/4 inch drive breaker bar was about 4 foot long, maybe 4.5. It was a honking piece of steel.
Oh, yeah.
And I came out with it over one shoulder, and one of the other guys was walking by. He's like, "Watch out, gonna kill someone."
That's amazing. That's amazing. I have a really bad habit of finding weapons in the shop as well. So let's talk about the Tacoma situation that you have made me wait till I got here to tell me.
So, we sold this Tacoma. We actually did not put the lift on it.
Okay.
It was a TR. It had the TRD factory
Okay.
lift and a 2-inch spacer on top of that
That's unfortunate. Okay.
with the stock CV axles.
I see the problems.
You see the problems. So customer brings it in complaining that the CV boots are blown out and leaking grease. What a shock.
Interesting.
So, just because I know most of our audience doesn't know this, so your CV axle is the part that actually attaches your wheel to the rest of the vehicle. So, it's a very important safety feature of the vehicle.
It's called the CV axle.
The boots keep grease in so that they keep lubricated. When your boots are torn, your grease leaks out, your joints fail.
Because then you just have mechanical parts rubbing against each other with nothing helping them.
And then when it breaks apart, your wheel is no longer attached to your car the way it should be. And so it is a very valid concern. However, it's a lifted truck. You purchased it that way. You assumed the responsibility for the additional maintenance. If you lift your trucks, people, you are going to have additional maintenance. That's just a fact of life. This particular vehicle, there is an option for a longer CV axle you can purchase.
Okay.
So it will reduce the cost overall. If you leave the stock CV axles on there, you are probably going to blow out those boots because they're overextended.
Yeah.
Between 10 and 40,000 miles. Like, it's going to happen pretty quick.
And it depends on your driving habits as well.
Yeah. If you're driving off-road, you're probably going to be closer to that 10,000 or less.
That's more of what I mean. You know, if you're using your lifted Jeep, Tacoma, Ram, Ford, whatever the heck it is that you have all lifted and jacked up, you take it off-roading, you're not very sweet with it. I mean, just think of like Jeep Safari, all of those super lifted Jeeps and super cool off-roading rigs. They're made that way to off-road.
Yeah.
They're not made that way to drive down the lane trying to have a good Tuesday. I mean,
Yeah.
you have different vehicles.
And there are certainly people that just lift their trucks for the style.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what we sell them for. We don't sell built vehicles. We sell lifted vehicles for style.
Yes. 100%.
If you're buying a lifted vehicle from a used car lot, they're only for show. Unless you go ahead and take the incentive and build them.
Yeah.
There's a difference between built and lifted. So
Just slapping a lift on stock parts. I mean, there's so much dimension,
The
and
axle
math. I mean, everything that
geometry-
goes into this.
yes, the axle geometry completely changes. Your pinion angle completely changes. You're gonna wear out pinion seals and pinion bearings faster.
Sometimes tractor bars.
Traction bars, the steering stabilizer shock.
Sometimes the box.
Yeah, a lot of times that's I know there's argument there. Like, it's not necessarily the cause of the death wobble, but it is where you're gonna feel it when the steering stabilizer shock wears out.
Yep.
That shock wears out prematurely because other parts have other strain on them that you should probably address as well. But that takes a very specialized technician that knows lifted and built vehicles to actually find what parts need to be replaced.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this customer purchases this truck, notices it's leaking grease from the CV boots after purchase, not immediately. Like, it's been at least a few weeks.
Okay.
Didn't notice it on the test drive, didn't notice it within the first 30 days, but still expects us to pay for it.
Of course.
Um,
Of course they do. Adult decisions, always our fault. Continue.
so our brand new advisor is the one who ends up working with this customer.
Wonderful. Of course he does.
And so he doesn't have any idea how to handle this situation. And just, I swear, every time this kid picked up the phone, all I heard was, okay, let me talk to the manager and I'll call you back. And it must have been 15 times. And we offered, we would pay for the labor if he paid for the CV axle boots or the lengthened CVs. Up to him what he wanted to pay for. And as soon as the service manager and the sales manager both confirmed to this man we were not going to pay for this, I'll just take it. I don't want to pay for you guys to do these boots. It's like, you brought it to me. You brought it to me because you had a problem with it, and you know it's a safety concern because you brought it to me. I gave you a solution where I mean, if you take it to an off-road shop and maybe they actually address the issues with it and make it something that can be built and taken off-road, great. But we offered to take care of the labor, so all you were paying for was the parts, as if you were doing it yourself, but you didn't actually have to put in the work.
And all that gentleman did was come in to even get it for free.
Yep, that's all I
That's-
wanted. As soon as he
and
was,
most of the
as
time,
soon
that's
as
what
it
it
was
is.
confirmed he was not getting it for free, he walked away.
I'm sure.
At this point, I'm curious to see. We want to look at some reviews across the country for different dealerships and service centers and see what these reviews look like. Like, does this sound like it's just somebody that's complaining because they want to get free stuff? Or does this actually sound like this person had a genuinely bad experience? And how should the advisor or manager have taken care of this situation?
This one, I'm curious to see what people have to say. I think that this one, the customer was actually pretty reasonable, understanding.
So today I decided to get some air in my tires before my meeting. I had 2 hours before I had to drive 40 minutes to get to my meeting on time. I called beforehand and they let me know that it would be a 10-minute wait. When I got there, an overweight dude with curly hair was super rude to begin with, immediately dismissed me and told me to pull up to the back. I ended up waiting there for 40 minutes in the car. When did 10 turn into 40? Oh, and I was late for my meeting as well. Well, how
Got a
did
long
that?
story.
Okay, I do want to just on the customer here a little bit. Like, yeah,
Math ain't
how did you go from having 2 hours to make your 40-minute drive to 40 minutes making you late? Anyway,
That's its own issue on itself. But
so yes,
I mean,
as
I
far
will
as-
say,
yeah, as far as filling up some air, like,
just 2 minutes, if that.
seriously, why?
And it's
Why-
probably because that advisor was just having a bad day and decided to take it out on that guy.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I take that one. So, I mean, do not think that we just talk crap about customers. People in the business also deserve these.
Oh, absolutely. So this one says, beware, these guys don't know anything about diesels. And this is a diesel repair facility. Says, being in diesel repair, you would think they would know about common issues with diesel trucks, but I was wrong. Charged me $2,500 for 4 new driver's side injectors on my 03 Duramax, which, like, $2,500 should get you all 8. Anyway. Or I guess to be fair, it has been like 5 or 6 years since I, oh, but this review is from 2014. Yeah, no, he way overpaid in 2014.
That's a lot.
Only to get 300 miles down the road, headed back to Ohio to find out it's doing the exact same thing, getting 3 or 4 gallons of fuel in the oil. Long story short, they told me to get screwed, even after 100% proof that they have the job and the tech just didn't want to do the hard side. Getting home and removing the motor, we found 2 bad injectors and the banjo bolt washers. Banjo bolt washer was finger tight on the passenger side. I now need an $8,000 motor because the job was not diagnosed correctly. As far as the 3 to 4 gallons of fuel in the oil, that doesn't necessarily sound like they didn't diagnose it correctly.
Yeah.
That sounds like the injectors they got were cheap aftermarket ones. And the 03 Duramax is actually very famous for this issue, which is what he mentioned. The 03 Duramax injectors cause a hot start problem.
Yeah.
The truck was warmed up unless it literally sat till it was bone cold, would not start again if you shut it off. Your options were shut it off and have a can of ether around, which is super awful to do to a diesel motor. Or get a wheel chock. I don't know.
This one's going to be interesting. So this one, I'm really interested to hear from you guys on. So it says, this is the customer's review. I had my car towed here and they told me what needed to be fixed and the cost. I said, okay, came to pick up my car. About a week passed and it wasn't starting again. So I got it towed once again. Now they're telling me it's something else wrong with it. They told me the price. I said, okay, go to pick up my car again. I want this to be known. It's the second time he had to come pick up his vehicle. That's what he says here. They said so it was something wrong with my fuel pump And that's what they fixed originally. So when came to pick up my car, I only had it for a week. And now my car is showing something wrong again with the tank. So I took it to another shop just to find out that they said my fuel pump is not working and I need a new one. And I had to pay these people $1,300 to get it fixed just for me to fix it again. I will never come back to this place. The shop responded very fast and said, "Hi, customer. Thank you for your feedback. I'm sorry to hear about your experience. However, I'd like to clarify that we actually provided a warranty on the fuel pump replacement on 10/11/24 at no additional cost to you. You only paid for the original installation, and any subsequent issues with that part would be covered under your warranty. Additionally, I'd like to point out that after your initial review, you returned to us for a complimentary grill replacement on 10/19/24, valued at $400. So I'm just confused on what your actual issue is, and I want you to understand that we stand by our work in ensuring customer satisfaction." Who is right?
So that's a rough one, actually.
Isn't
'cause
that fun?
I've been on both sides of that. And, I've advised customers on both sides of that.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yes, as a repair facility, you don't have control over whether or not the parts are going to fail right out the door. Like I said, I'm becoming more and more and more of a common issue that the parts themselves are bad from the factory. So, if a truly honest technician did a real diagnosis, did an honest repair, and put a bad part in, unfortunately, he has no control over that factor. The fact that it happened within a week and it was the same issue, whether she paid for it again, she was out her car, and she probably was out the tow bill as well.
Oh, yeah.
At least our dealership would have charged the tow bill, wouldn't have taken care of the tow bill. My smaller repair facility probably would have. But from the customer's perspective, I've already taken it to you twice, and you didn't fix my issue. So why should I trust you to keep coming back and keep having me tow my vehicle back in? Like, 2-3 strikes, man, it gets rough at that point. But I've also been the one dealing with the parts warranty. So I know for a fact throughout my career, I have worked with some of the best technicians who we have no control over the parts.
So here's another one I think this one, maybe I'll say my opinion after this one. This is another one. It puts the prices in it and everything from the same shop from the previous. So the customer says, "Brought my car in because the check engine light was on. After taking a look, they told me the voltage was low and I need a new battery, which was 250, before they could even run the engine test, which was 135.
Which is
So
accurate,
instead,
which is a thing.
It is a thing. Now just wait, because it's going to explain that in what the shop responded. So it says, "Instead, I took it to where I got my battery a year prior, AutoZone. They checked my battery and alternator, and it showed both were perfect in condition, and her battery was at 100%. Hold. In addition, they ran an engine test for free. So they scanned her code.
I
I no longer trust this repair shop." So the repair shop said, "Hi, customer. So sorry for your experience. However, I did try reaching out to you over the phone in hopes of resolving this for you. It looks like your check engine light was on when you brought it in, and it was triggered by low voltage codes. The test we all ran pertained to low voltage codes. We do have those records on file as well. The results came back marginal, and this is why we retest the light for you and recommend putting a new battery to continue further testing. We did not charge you $70. We did not charge you for the $70 inspection fee or the check engine light reset. We would love to continue following up to fix this."
So, fun fact. O'Reilly's, AutoZone, Walmart, some Napas, most Napas are pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Those guys don't want to give you another part for free.
No.
So their testers are very dumb.
Yeah.
Their testers are very, very basic. And as far as the check engine light for low voltage codes, honest to God, that could just be because you left the lights on too long while you were unloading your car, had all 5 doors open, and your battery got low enough that all of those fancy modules that control all of the electronics in your car, from your fuel pump to your brake module. Every single one of those works off a tiny, tiny, tiny voltage margin. So if your battery drops down just a hair, it's going to trigger all of those lost communication codes,
Which will trigger your light.
which will trigger the check engine light. And it may or may not clear on its own when the battery charges back up. So the battery may test just fine the next day after you've run it and the alternator has had a chance to charge it. If all you're getting is voltage codes, most of the time, like, clearing that light and wait to see what happens is a perfectly acceptable course of action.
100%.
But if your check engine light is on and the only codes that come up are voltage or lost communication, there is nothing that is able to be checked when it's many, many codes like that
Until we can just
until we can prove the battery is perfect.
Yep. And the only way we can prove that is by putting a good one in there. Now, let's say they put the good one in there, they retest it, and all of these codes are still coming back. That tells us there's voltage issues in the vehicle.
Correct.
Something else could be going on. It could be a short to ground somewhere, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but again, there's no wand, there's no magic ball to set on your hood and say, tell me what's wrong, please.
There's a loose wire underneath the fuse box touching the alternator going, ah!
Yeah, there's nothing. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do that, okay? I wish. Because then, I mean, honestly, we'd make a lot more money. And also, if I had a wand to fix your stuff, I'd be a billionaire.
Ooh, this is actually an excellent one too. So, I've had them work on my. It's the same diesel shop. Had them work on my truck a few times. They've been okay. However, when I was going to haul a horse across the country and brought my truck in for a multi-point inspection, they charged me the oil and said everything was okay. 500 miles into the trip, the brakes start grinding. By the time I could find a place to put the horse and get the brakes repaired, it was too late. One trashed rotor, and $700 later, I was back on the road. Very disappointed, will not be back. How can you not check the brakes on a multi-point inspection? Did you pay for a brake inspection or a tire rotation? Because at my Toyota dealership, we flat out did not. If I did not remove those wheels, I did not measure those brakes. Now, most of the technicians would eyeball them.
Yeah.
Through the rotors, through the wheels, which you can do on a disc brake setup.
Yeah. You can't on drums.
But if we don't pull the wheels off and charge you for that time to pull those wheels off, we did not make a brake inspection.
Yep.
And we were very upfront about that. Like, that was a very obvious conversation we had when you checked in. So did the shop drop the ball and not tell you that, hey, unless you want to pay me for a tire rotation, and it sounds like they only paid for an oil change. Do you want to pay for a tire rotation or a brake check and have this checked out? And typically, if you tell me that I'm going across the country, I'm going to say, okay, I need to take these tires off to check the brakes. Do you want to pay me $25 for the tire rotation or $25 for a brake check?
It's 100% true.
So a multi-point inspection does not necessarily include brakes, depending on the facility. And again, was it the advisor that dropped the ball and said and didn't tell you that, or was it the technician because they should have? Because at my old shop, we absolutely would check the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even charge for a multi-point inspection because we didn't have like an inspection sheet anyway. So we just check the filters and brakes and just eyeball it, make sure there's nothing bent, broken, leaking.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here's something that made me think about something else I did want to talk about here. So a lot of customers think that we do unnecessary repairs. So let's say you have a belt squeak that is what you can hear, right? So we get it in, we tell you you have a tensioner that's slightly loose and your belt's getting torn up because of that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to recommend the tensioners and the belt. Because when one's already stressed out, what do you think the other ones are doing?
Yes.
I thought about that because of a review I had just seen, but I refreshed my phone and I lost it. So it wasn't that they were recommending unneeded maintenance or unneeded repairs. It's your one repair you need to keep it running is also causing other things that if you can maintain right now, you're not going to have this issue again. Yes. You're not going to trash the brand new tensioner we just put on.
Yeah.
Because the other one that just feels like a hair loose, not loose like the other one that's causing this issue and causing this noise you're hearing, guess what it's going to do after so long? I'm putting all that tension back onto it. It's no longer riding a little weird.
Yep.
What do you think it's going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, tire pressure sensors. If you have one out, I'm recommending all 4 of them to you.
Well, I argue with that one, but I
always recommend either all 4, just replace them at once, because then I don't have to deal with the issues with them.
No.
I mean, wait till you replace your tires.
In my experience, wait till you replace your tires.
That's what I always tell people.
In my experience with tire pressure monitors, like, they're like headlights. Everybody has told me my whole life, you might as well buy both, and I do, but I'm too lazy to actually put in both bulbs, so I'm gonna keep it in my glove box and wait till the other one goes out 3 years later.
And that's fine.
So I've had the same experience with my tire pressure monitors. So I don't bother with the whole you should do all 4 because they're probably on the way out thing. But there are plenty of people who have experienced the opposite.
Yeah.
And tire pressure monitors are such a fascinating topic. We'll have to save that for another episode.
We'll talk about that. But I just wanted to mention that a lot of people in some of the reviews I'm seeing they're saying that they're unneeded repairs.
Yeah.
Ask more questions, guys.
Absolutely. And
I mean, that comes with it.
Yes.
Ask, why am I needing to do all of this? You're saying
Yeah.
this one tensioner is causing all these issues. So why do I need to replace this one?
And as an advisor, like, that is part of your job, is to explain that up front why. Like, and if you didn't understand, please ask for more clarification.
Mm-hmm.
But, I did actually have a customer this week who fully understood. The wheel and pinion bearings on her Yukon, which is a very heavy vehicle in the rear end. Like, this isn't necessarily going to be an issue with a truck or a car, but some big SUV like that, there's a ton of weight on that rear end. Mm-hmm. So the wheel bearings and the pinion bearing being bad very well possibly could have been caused by the fact her shocks were shot.
Okay.
And, as far as shocks, they're a wearable item. They're not a warrantable condition.
Yeah.
So I'm working with warranty to try and replace all of the bearings. And I told her, like, hey, I've already discussed it with the warranty company. The shocks are not a covered component. But that's something that you should do because it could lead to these bearings going bad again prematurely in the future. And she instantly was like, awesome, that's something my husband can do. I'm just going to get the shocks from GM and have him put them on. And I said, excellent. It's so nice when you have a customer that just listens to you and gets it.
Oh my God, they're my favorite. They're my favorite. Because at the end of the day, and again, we got to say this kind of broadly because it's not all advisors, but at least from our experience and from the ones that we have met, we're just trying to help. I just want to help you with the best price, best part.
Yeah.
I'm not going to quote you O'Reilly's part if the OEM one's cheaper and is a better part.
Yeah, or even in the
whatever
same
is the
ballpark.
best. I'm going to quote you, and if you don't want to, if you tell me ahead of time, all right, listen, lady, I have a budget of $1,200. I need your help. I can't do any more. People love their sob stories. So I'm a single mom of 50 kids and I have a husband, and that one was my favorite. That was a real story. When a customer could scream at you over the phone, but they'll send in Pappy or their mama. Like, oh, so you're a big boy over the phone, Jimmy? But you can't come and look me in the face and tell me that I'm a itch over the phone, trying not to cuss on Spotify. Or
your Lexus customer.
My Lexus.
Because of the new guy.
No.
Yeah, she cussed me up one side and down the other over the
She
phone.
was so nice.
That's what I had experienced the first couple of times I talked to her too, and then the new guy talked to her. All right, so I guess we're probably running out of time for the day, so
That we are.
we'll tell everyone farewell for now, and we will see you next week.
Toodaloo.